Hello, hello. Welcome to the Polish the Mirror podcast, episode number 9. I'm your host, Amy Thurman, and I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for joining us, whether you're watching or listening on the podcast platforms. I'm so glad that you're tuning in. If this is your first time to listen in, our podcast is a reflection of my story. I have lived the past 10 years with a broken neck and went from being completely incapacitated to now I live an empowered life. And so I love to help other people share their stories of hope gained in the midst of adversity as well. And so that's what this is all about. So if you or someone you know have a story of hope gained in the midst of adversity, I would love for you to contact me and let me know if you would like to be a guest on the show. We can talk about that for sure because I love, like I said, helping people share their stories. The hashtag is hashtag Polish the Mirror podcast. It's streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram. What else is there? All the things. It's streaming live on all the things. And then I upload the audio to all of the podcasting platforms so that you can listen in there as well. So we're going to get into it today with my friend and guest, Colleen Watson. Oh my gosh, Colleen, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on, Amy. This is so exciting.
Of course, of course. Colleen and I have, oh my gosh, we did a class, a course together, got to know each other, visited, chatted a little bit there. I think you were on my 100 Days, 100 Emotions project as well. Yeah, so Colleen has been a big supporter of mine, and we have, tried to support each other in all that we do. And so I'm just so thankful for like-minded connections like that are just truly out there to help you, to help each other. There's no personal gain involved. It's just you want to help each other, which is my heart. So that's one of the things I love about you, Colleen, is that you just want to help people. And I'm so, so thankful for that. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. That's so lovely of you to say.
Of course, of course. So we're going to get into whatever it is you want to share with us today. This is, like I said, about sharing your story of hope gained in the midst of adversity. So I want you to feel free to share whatever it is you want to share. I'm not going to push you or pressure you into sharing anything you don't want to, but feel free to share with us what you gained through your adversity.
So I think I'm going to start my story back in 2014. I was knee-deep in my career as a librarian, doing teen and children's services. So that was a lot. Because, that's a lot of different developmental phases that you have to try and figure out and do programming for. And while that is happening, I am worried about my dad's health. And so I had made a decision in 2014 that I was going to step back from my job. And I originally planned, summers are the big library time. Summer reading is a huge library program. That is where most of library stuff happens. So my thought process is I'll get them through one last summer reading, and then I'm going to leave and help my mom take care of my father, who had Alzheimer's. And because he was at a space where he was still functional. He could still dress himself. He was still eating by himself, but he was losing his words. He was losing his language. And it became very clear that mom needed me to help. And so I was working part-time and staying with her until 2018 when he passed. And
sorry.
It is a very difficult thing to lose a parent by degrees. It's very difficult to lose anybody by degrees, when it's not a quick thing. They both have their traumas. If you lose somebody quickly and the things like you don't get to say goodbye, you don't get to whatever. But to lose somebody slowly can be a different sort of trauma. And Alzheimer's is one of those things. It has a huge umbrella of symptoms, but each individual Alzheimer's patient has the unique mix of what those symptoms are and what happens. And what happened with my father was that he became nonverbal.
Mm.
He would start a sentence and forget what he was saying, and he would get very frustrated where he could
Oh.
not find his words. And because of that, he just started talking less and less and less and less and less until he would
Mm.
forget to talk. Right.
Wow. Yeah.
And that was an interesting situation because, even though he's not communicating verbally, his facial expressions were still talking
Yes.
to me. And
Yes.
so I always, it got to a place where we could not take care of him anymore. We had to put him in an assisted living facility for the last 15 months of his life. And that was incredibly difficult and
I
also
imagine.
incredibly beautiful in its own
Mm.
way, because it got to the point where we knew he was safe. We knew he was happy. He had people around him who were engaging with him and stimulating him in a way that we just couldn't at home.
Yeah.
And my
Yeah.
father was what they called a sundowner, is an elderly person, which means they got more active when the sun went down. They were more evening people than morning people. And they would say, people there would be like, oh yeah, your dad would be like talking when we're watching television in the evening.
Oh my
And
word.
yeah, and they would say, we would be having conversations and he wasn't be participating, but you could see he was following. Like he was looking, you could see he was engaged and all of those things. And so the
Wow.
memories of those times, which are difficult, but they're also beautiful, because he had this wide range of people who were in his life. He was safe. We could, still have a life. My mom would go every single day, and she would feed him lunch, and she got great joy in that.
Hmm.
It was a much, because she always said, like, he's my baby boy, and I loved taking care of babies. It's when you got to be
Oh.
teenagers that you were a pain in the butt. But it kind of brought her back to her getting to be an early young mother. So for her, it was
Hmm.
a beautiful thing. For me,
Wow.
it was a beautiful thing because I always, even though he wasn't talking and he had Alzheimer's, I always acted like, and I sincerely believe this, and I believe it to this day, that there was a part of him that understood everything I was saying to him.
Yeah.
And we would, like, after lunch, we would walk around the care center, and I would tell him all the family gossip. And not to get into that, but there was a lot of family gossip going on at that time, right? So
Just some juicy stuff, huh?
yeah, so I was like, okay, Dad, so this is what's happening, and here's what's going on. And the few times he spoke at that point, it was meaningful, right? So I
Yeah.
remember one time I went to visit him, and he was taking a nap, but he wasn't asleep yet. And it was one of the few times, the last time that I remember him speaking. And he
Hmm.
looked at me and he grabbed me and he said, lay down. And so I lay with him until he fell asleep. And
Oh,
that is a memory that I will treasure for the rest of my life. You know what I mean?
wow.
Because
Yes.
I'm the baby in my family by a lot, by a decade, plus
Oh,
or minus
wow.
a couple of years. And I'm a daddy's girl. And so,
Hmm.
it was a very difficult thing for none of us. I have two siblings, one of each, and none of us were having a fun time watching our parent decline. Right? It's
Right.
it's never fun. It's horrible. It's tragic, and I, you never get over missing them.
Yeah.
You never do. When you lose somebody, you never get over missing them. But taking care of him was, it was so funny because when he passed, I was not sad. I was
Mm.
relieved because I got to
Yeah.
say everything I needed to say to him. He knew I loved him. I had the very hard conversation of telling him he could go. I would take care of my mother. We would be okay.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I got to do that, and it was a beautiful thing. And coming out the other side of that, I was the one who gave the eulogy, and it was hard, but it was not sad. You know,
Yeah.
I believe my father's in a better place. I believe he's, I still feel him. He's still around. And
Yeah.
during shit times in my life, I still talk. I'm like, Dad,
Yeah.
can you help me out here? You
Come
know what I mean?
on.
He's still a huge presence in my life. And
Aw.
the beauty, and as this is going to sound very strange, but when I was much younger, when I was, in my 20s and my teens, and I had older parents. My parents were in their mid 30s when they had me, which, I was born in 69. That's a big deal, right? That's not a time. That's not so uncommon these days, but at that time, that was not the norm, right? And so I had older parents, and I was always very aware compared to my friends' parents that I had older parents. No, they were very active people. It wasn't like they were old feeling, but they were older in years. And so you're much more aware that, like, oh, I could lose a parent. You know what I mean? And when I was very young, that was my nightmare, because I always like, what happens if I don't have my dad to back me up? Because my dad was my rock, right? And I did not, by the time, oh, did I lose you? Did we lose each other? You okay?
I think for just a second, we're still good. We're still here. It just froze for a second, but we're still good. Yeah.
We're still good? Okay.
Yeah,
I'm betting it's
good.
me. The snow is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I always feared, like, I would not have backup. Like, my life, I would not know what to do it without my dad. And as weird as it sounds, because I was his caretaker and my mom's caretaker, I knew I would be okay. Did it mean I didn't miss him? Of course it didn't mean I didn't miss him. I loved my father. I adored my father. But I did not feel that overwhelming dread that I felt as a younger person of, like, I would not know how to move on. That was not there. And so, as weird as it sounds, like, it is the truth. Your hard times, the times you need the grit, the times you just want to just stay in bed, at the other side of them, they're the things that make you. And they're the things that, like, and it's so funny because I am never sad on the anniversary of my father's death. I'm never sad. It just happened. I'm not sad because that was not sad. We knew he was gonna go. They called us. They're like, you're gonna want to be here for him today. And we went and we spent the whole day with him and went home. And my mom, it's so funny. She's like, they called us about 1 because that's when he had passed. 1 in the morning. And my mom said, oh, I knew that was going to happen because that's when your grandmother died. That, we spent the day with her. And I knew that was going to happen because the father I knew would not do that when we were in the room. That is not who he was. That's not what he would ever do. And it was, we went in, we kissed him goodbye. He looked so peaceful.
Yeah.
It was a peaceful death. As hard as it was, that's as hard as it is to lose a parent. Like, that's what you want. You want them to go peacefully in their sleep.
Right.
And so coming out the other side of that, it's so funny because I lost him in 2018. 2000, and you're depressed for a little while after that.
Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. You get to the other side of that, you're gearing up again. I was like ready to start looking for full-time work. I was turning 50 in 2019. I was turning 50. We planned to go on a cruise. We went on a cruise in November of 2019. And we all know what happened in 2020, especially with cruise ships, right?
Yeah.
My mom and I are just like, oh my God, did we dodge a bullet? Did we 100% dodge a bullet with that?
Yeah.
Because it was literally the cruise after the one that we were scheduled to take was the Thanksgiving week cruise. We did the first week in November. right? And then they did another thing, and then the same cruise we were looking at did it was a Thanksgiving, and of course that was insanely expensive, and we were just like, yeah, we're not going to do that.
No,
But
thank
the
you.
weekend before Thanksgiving was the week, before was reasonable. We went with a friend. It was a great time. I was just like, my 50s are going to be fantastic. And then, of course, the world shut down.
Yep.
But I always think, like, would I be as okay as I was during the pandemic if I hadn't gone through what I went through with my dad and know that I have the capability of doing hard things? I'm not sure I would have.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
life is weird. It's just weird, Amy, because
Yeah.
in the middle of it, you're just like, oh my God, this is, and it was hard. I'm never gonna lie to you and say like it was easy, it was a breeze. It was never easy. Now, but there are beautiful things that came out of that time.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I will never forget that. I will always carry with me that are so crucial to who I am as a person right now. I still have about 6 of his shirts hanging up in my closet. And after I lost him, it felt good to have a couple of, just smell him and wear, and
Yeah.
don't do that so much anymore. But having them there is a comfort to me. And then
Yeah.
where I get in trouble, because it's never, you lose somebody you love, it's always going to hit you. And where it hits me
Right.
is right around his birthday.
Yeah.
My dad's birthday is November 20th, which means it's always right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Right. And in my family, it went, so it was Halloween, dad's birthday, Thanksgiving, my birthday, Christmas, my mother's birthday, and my brother's birthday. That from November to January, that was like, and so like, it's not just his birthday, it's like the beginning of a whole bunch of stuff that's family time that he's not around for. And that's where I get into trouble still.
Yeah.
So, but we do something every year now. I call it Dad Day. And
Oh.
my siblings are, and I don't have kids. Both of my siblings have children, right? And so every year we get on like a Zoom call or Google Meet or whatever it is, and my brother has 4 sons and 1 stepdaughter, and we get on the phone with them. My sister has 2 children and grandchildren, and like we all get on and just do this call, and it's like it's this beautiful thing because none of these people would exist had my father not existed.
Yes.
And for me, like after that call, I'm okay. Because this year it was so funny. It was my brother, very long story short, my brother had planned, he's retired. He'd planned to move to Panama this year or last year. And Panama just kind of imploded on them.
Yeah.
Because there was a strike. And they decided, we'll just stay in Colorado because there are people we know here, and
Right.
it's nice to just be settled for a little while. So like they moved in here, and they were, we all were together at the house with Mom and me, and all of his sons got on the screen, and my brother has 4 sons, and I was watching my nephews and my brother, and I just saw my father in all of them. You know what I mean? And like I do that every year. And like my sister, it's funny because we always say my brother got dad's looks and mom's personality. My sister got mom's looks and dad's personality. And I'm just me.
You're a nice mixture.
Yeah, so it's a really nice mixture. So and my sister, she has a blended, she's intergenerational family. So she lives with her daughter and her grandchildren.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and so there's this young energy, and you see, I see them in like the grandchildren and in my niece, and like, it's this beautiful, comforting thing. So even the
Yeah.
rituals of missing people and grief have their beauty, you know,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and so, that has been, my experience, and it's also made me braver, you know.
Yeah.
We met each
Well,
other.
and it's like you said this earlier that once you do something hard and you make it through, you're like, "Oh, hey, look what I did." Like, "I did that. I
Yeah,
maybe I can do something else hard."
I don't
And,
think I ever would have
this
started my business had I not been through that. Because Amy and I, we met each other through a class that helps entrepreneurs. And we both, are business people. Um,
Yeah.
and I do not think I would have ever just been like, yeah, I'll just start my own thing. And I'll be honest with you, I did everything wrong as an entrepreneur. Did I have a business plan or a marketing plan or any clue?
That's
No,
funny.
no, didn't have anything like that.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing when I started. I didn't have a clue what I was
Yeah,
doing.
I literally was like throwing spaghetti at the wall for a year, trying to figure out who the heck I
Thank
was
goodness
and what was going on. And
thank goodness for Karen Yankovich who set us
yes,
straight, right?
yeah, I was just like, oh,
Oh my
I do
gosh.
not know what I would be doing right now. And of course, this is the other thing I will say, if you're starting something new, it's okay for a little while to do that, because you got to start, right?
Yeah.
And it's progress over perfection is always a thing, but at some point, it's really okay to ask for help. It's really
Yeah.
okay to say, like, I do not know what the heck I'm doing. Help me. And sometimes I'm reading a book right now called Be Seen. It's by Jen Gottlieb. And she talks
Hmm.
about how she went through a major, like, everything in her life had fallen apart. She'd lost her job, she'd lost her boyfriend, she'd hit the wall. And she decided, like, this is not good. I'm not like in touch with myself. And she read a whole bunch of self-help and psychology and whatever, and she called them the friends that in her head, right? And
Oh,
sometimes, you start with the friends in your head. And for me, it's
yeah.
podcasts, it's business books, it's self-help books. and,
Right.
and that is a totally legit way to start. And sometimes, they're friends who stay in your head. Sometimes you meet them on a phone call and end up spending 12 weeks with them in a program, and they help you figure out your business.
Exactly.
And they become
Yes.
really friends in your life, right?
Yes. Yes.
But I always say, you know, if I had to do it over again, would I do any? There are things I could have done different. Would I have done it differently? I don't think I would have, because, like,
Yeah. You learn so much
you
as
do.
you
And
as you make mistakes, you learn so much.
we were knee deep in the pandemic, and I needed to be busy. I
Yeah.
needed to stay productive. Even if I didn't know what the hell I was doing most of the
Yeah.
time, every day, like, I had a to-do list with things to do, right?
Yeah.
And that helped keep me sane. And because I was sane and I was happy and I was trying new things, I'm still a caretaker for my mom. I still live with her. She was okay, because I would be like, okay, well then, because we were stuck at home, but we still,
Yeah.
like, once a week we ordered food from a restaurant and went out and picked it up. And like, little rituals like that, do in the middle of all of that, just were so important. We had a thing where we, like, go outside every afternoon in the summer, and just sit outside and just be. And
Yeah.
I'd work on my business and she'd read a book. And it was just like, sometimes little rituals are all you need to just get you through the crap,
Yes.
right? Um,
Yes.
but
Exactly.
but
We were
yeah,
talking about, starting our businesses without knowing anything. Like,
no, I had
I'm
no
writing
clue
my
what I was
memoir.
doing.
My memoir is coming out in April, which is at the time of this recording next month. And there's a section in there where I talk about Karen. I don't name her by name, but that I didn't have a clue what I was doing. Like, I didn't know what I didn't know. And
Yeah.
so I had to hire a coach. And it's exactly what you said. Like, I had all these friends in my head. I listened to stuff and learned things all the time. But it's so different to work with someone who's actually been there and done it, and
Yeah.
it can show you personally how to do it. And so that's something that I really, really encourage people to do is,
No,
you know, you
100%. And the
someone
other thing,
someone who knows what they're doing, that's reputable, that you trust, like
yeah,
Karen, who helped us so much.
and I'm going to put the plug in, like, part of the reason that I was okay on the other side after losing my dad is I went to therapy. I
Oh,
was
yeah.
sad. I knew I was
Yeah.
sad. But I also understood it was a situational depression. And
Yeah.
and I loved my father, and I knew he would want me to grieve him. He would not want me to be stuck because of him.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
So I went to therapy, and there's
Yeah.
no shame. There are still like the those who, like, therapy is for weak people, or no, therapy is for anybody who needs it. And at some point, it's going to hit the fan
I
in
have
your
2
life.
therapists, so, yeah, I totally get it. I mean,
It's
I have
so
2 of them, like,
It's totally
it's
necessary.
so
You have
important.
to do it for yourself. You
Yeah.
have to
And
do it for yourself.
yes, and it's exactly what you said, there's no shame in asking for help. Like,
No.
writing this book, like, writing my memoir, I had forgotten what all I have been through, like, literally, I've forgotten what all I have overcome. But one thing that really jumped out at me was I'm such an independent person, I don't like to ask for help, I like to do things myself. I had to ask people for help. I had to rely on other people, and every time I did, they came through for me. They helped me. I learned something. I was able to get to the next step because people helped me, because I asked them for help.
Yeah.
And that's still something I'm learning, is that it's okay to not be that independent, to
Yeah.
still need help.
And I it's funny because, like, the the first time I went to therapy was long before I lost my dad. It was years ago, and that was hard. Like, the first time I went to therapy, it was just like I was struggling with anxiety, and I didn't know why, and I was just like, I just knew I needed help, but it was hard. Like, it was
Yeah.
really hard. And to finally, like, go to your doctor and say, I think I'm depressed,
Yeah.
and having to deal with that. And luckily I had, I have a great GP, and feel very comfortable with her. And once again, the second time I did it, I was just like, I didn't even, like, go in. I, like, called her. I'm like, okay, I'm depressed. I'm feeling anxiety. And I knew it was anxiety. Like, I
Yeah.
knew it was anxiety. And I was just like, yep, who do I go to? How do I start? And, we all go through things in our life. And, I believe in coaching. Like, Karen has been a big coach for us. And for
Yeah.
business people, coaches, consultants, 100% take advantage of it. But entrepreneurship, we have a harder mental health journey, generally speaking, than the general population. We
Mhm.
are more prone to depression because we spend so much of our time alone. We are more prone to addiction problems for the same reason. The only, mental illness we're not more prone to, and I think that this is just the reality of the post-pandemic world, is everybody's equally prone to anxiety. Right?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
all, anxiety people. So if, particularly for entrepreneurs, I think it's really important to prioritize your mental health on your journey, because
Yes.
our journey is different than, most people, their lives have, if you work for somebody, like, you have a start time, you have an end time, you have a lunch break, you have meetings, you have a structure to your day, and you have other people telling you what your goals and expectations that you have to meet are. And the joy and the terror of entrepreneurship is you're the person who has to
Yes.
tell yourself what your goals and your expectations are. And then you
Yeah.
have to live up to them. And I've always said, like, if you're going to be an entrepreneur to be your own boss, you better make sure you're a good boss.
Yes. Right? It's so true. Like, you have to have a certain skill set to be able to do that
Yeah,
effectively, and to make it happen.
you do. And
Yeah,
it
it's so
doesn't mean
true.
it's impossible. It
Right.
just means that, it's like getting into shape. You're building the muscle, and at first it's really, really hard, and it's achy, and you're in pain. But eventually, like, you build up the resistance, the muscle starts to grow, and you get muscle memory, right?
Yeah.
It and you figure it out. You really do. And I in the middle of my dad's journey, I had a situation where, and it was a freak out situation. I was losing my mind, Amy. So my dad is in assisted living. He's safe. He's fine. My mom is having a few medical problems, and she goes in for a colonoscopy. And I'm thinking, like, okay, well, this is just a precaution. That's what the doctor said. We just want to make sure that there's nothing serious going on. And I fully expected, I took her in. I fully expected the doctor to tell me everything's fine.
Right.
So the doctor comes and tells me, you know, I'm not an oncologist and I'm not a pathologist, but I'm 98% sure that your mom has colon cancer.
Oh, wow.
In the middle of, and we're in the middle of my dad being in
Yeah.
a, right, and she's his main caretaker, and I'm just like, I'm alone.
Yeah.
I'm the designated person, but like I'm like, I can only handle one parent at a time, and now you're hitting me with
Yeah.
two parents. And like,
Yeah.
somehow my mom had, and it's interesting, she got it the exact same age her mother got it. So this was
Wow.
a family thing, right? So
Yeah.
mom goes in, and we get the surgery done. She gets it removed. The day of the surgery, my sister went in to take care of my dad, and my mom kept saying, worry about your dad, don't worry about me. And I'm just like, yeah, mom. And my mother has never worried about any surgery in her life. And I always joke, no, that's her job. I want you to not worry about a darn thing. I'll worry about it all.
Yeah.
So we get her going. She does the surgery really fine. She's out within a couple days. We go back and get to see dad again, and everything's going along. And then she gets an infection.
Oh,
And we go back to the hospital, and mom is in for a week that
oh,
time.
mercy.
And,
Wow.
and so but I got to the other side of that, and it was like, oh, I actually kept all the plates spinning. Like,
Yeah.
mom got taken care of, dad got taken care of, the house got taken care of, the bills got paid, like everything
Yeah.
happens. And I always like, so like starting a business, like I always think, like, in the face of that, starting a business, that's nothing. Like,
Yeah. Right? Reflection is so important. Like, I
yeah.
learned so much from reflecting on things like that. And I want you to tell us about what you do. First, I want to ask you the question I ask every guest,
Mm-hmm.
real quickly. What has this adversity taught you, or what have you learned from this adversity? And then you can talk about what it is you do, and we'll share your website.
So what most of my adversity taught me, I am a planner by nature. Um, I was I was so funny because I had a will. I was single, childless, and I had a will before both of my siblings who were neither of those things. And like, I'm a planner. I
Yeah.
pride myself on being a planner. And what it really had taught me was the best things in life and the worst things in life are generally the same thing in life, and they're never planned.
Mm.
And it's
Wow.
okay to go with the flow. It's
Yeah.
actually okay to live a day at a time, and
Mm.
to, there's a metaphor that says, all you need on the headlights of the car is the 10 feet ahead of you, right?
Mm,
And you
yeah.
can be safe with the headlights on the car 10 feet at a time, right? And so like I am a lot more open. I'm a lot looser these days. I can go with the flow in a way that I don't think I could have before.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, I was the person who planned the vacation in my family. Like, we're doing this and we're doing that and we're getting the tickets
Yeah.
and all of that. And the last vacation we took, like with my mom and I, we talked about it. We planned two things. We did those two things. And the rest of the time it was just like, oh, well, what do you want to do today? And it was loosey goosey. And Colleen, before all this, was never the person who could have managed that.
Yeah. The instances that really are out of our control, which I was that way too. I was so like everything had to be to a T. But
Mm-hmm.
because I have gone through so many things that were completely out of my control, like you, I've learned the same thing that I'm going to have to go with the flow here and allow things to happen as they're going to happen because you know what? I can't control everything as much as
No,
I might want to. I can't control it. And life is so much more pleasant when you do that, when you
it
learn to
is.
just kind of go with the flow and allow things to happen as they're going to.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It is a relief, and it is something that I honestly, the people who could manage that, like in their 20s, like I'm a little jealous of them. I didn't get
Yeah.
to manage that till I'm in my 50s, but you know what? I was also the person who, like, when I turned 40, like 50 was this black hole. Like, if I
Yeah.
didn't get certain things done by the time I was 50, my life would be over. And
It
by
was
the time,
ending. Yes.
yeah, because my life would have been a failure because it was all down. And now I'm just like, I could live to be 100. The
Yeah.
way medical science is going, that's a complete and total possibility, which means I have
Absolutely.
5 more centuries to get stuff done. So
Yeah.
what am I complaining about? Like, but
Right.
you never know until you get there, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
human nature to assume the worst in any given
Yep. That's
situation.
how we're wired. But it
It
sounds like
is.
it has into play in a good way for you because what is it you do now? Don't you put that into use with your business now?
I am still a planner. So I run Century Plant Publishing. I chose Century Plant because I don't know if you know what Century Plants are. Century plants are a cactus, and they're kind of like an agave cactus. They grow very close to the ground and kind of look like a big leaf flower. But the
Oh
beautiful
wow.
thing about a century plant is about 30 years in, they live about 40 years. 30 years in, almost overnight, 30 feet in the air shoots a bloom, a beautiful flower. And
Wow.
it stays up, and when the flower goes, the plant dies, right? And so it spends all the time growing and growing and growing and growing, but it's the end of its life that it's most beautiful. And so for
Oh,
me, that's indicative of being a late bloomer, which I
I love
consider myself
that.
to be. So that is where Century Pet comes from.
That's beautiful. Oh, I
Um,
never knew that. That's beautiful.
yeah. So um, publishing, because I was a self-published author, and I still am planning to do that. But I formed it as publishing because that was the original idea. And then, of
Right.
course, like every other entrepreneur, I pivoted and pivoted and pivoted and pivoted until I was dizzy. So I have two umbrellas within that. I have the marketing umbrella, where I help people create what I call the business plan for their blog. So we do a lot of what you do when you create a business plan. You look at the landscape, you do a SWOT analysis, you look at your competition, you figure out who you're doing this for, you figure out your niche, and yes, you have like a niche with your business, but then you look at how other people write about that niche and you figure out how you want to do it. And you look at your competition and all of that, all of the stuff you do when you build a business plan, which of course, as you know, I didn't do. But we do all that. We get that all figured out, and then we figure out an SEO profile. So I give you about 12 to 15 keywords that you're going to hone in on the first time or around, and then we'll help you figure out your first quarter of posts, and then I hand it back to you and trust you to execute. I do that knowing that a lot of people are going to probably get on old chat GPT. I'm a realist. But you're going to know the how to do it, why it's important, have a real clear sense of how long it's going to take you, and all of those other good fun things. I do have a couple of backups. So if people want to actually write, I do offer accountability services. So I kind of like, okay, have you done your research? Is your first draft done? Have you got your pictures? But you know what I mean? All of that good fun stuff. And then I also offer, you want help figuring out your next quarter of stuff? Let's sit down and figure that out. Then I have the business services. And this really came out of the fact that I think you know this. My mom had a major medical situation this past year. Planner, right? And I did not have any plan in place for my business if I had to be taken out of my business for any length of time. And because I didn't want to, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to. We don't want to plan for things we don't want to consider. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I realized that like I am clearly not alone in this. And we entrepreneurs, we need to create our own safety nets. So the business planning, we have what I call the 4 pillars, where we focus on money. So we make sure like, okay, let's have a retirement plan. Let's have a tax strategy. Let's make sure you can cover your bills. Insurance, both what I call the talk, where you have a serious conversation with your significant other about you still there, Amy? Okay, good. Significant conversation with the so that you know who's going to take over if you are pulled out of your business for something, and have those conversations, and so it's better to do that before the ambulance pulls up in front of your house, right? And then of course, are you covered with like life insurance, short and long-term disability, long-term care, all of those things that we don't necessarily think about, but we should, depending on what you do, you should probably have at least some of those. Succession planning for how you're going to leave your business, be it you're a technician, you love what you do, then you want to retire, you want to do it until you want to retire. If you want to pass it on to a family member, or you want to build to sell. So all of those take about 2 years to, a plan for how to gracefully exit stage left. And the last one, of course, is wills and or living trusts, because it's going to cost your family much more if you do not have those things. And so that is the pilot program that I'm launching now, and very excited about it. So those are my 2 divisions. I'm so big and important, Amy. I have divisions now. So
look at you. Well, it sounds like you are doing so wonderful things to help others. And I'm so excited for what you have done, what you do, how your business is growing, and how you're expanding into being able to your plate, which is not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. And so you're doing that. So I'm so proud of you. And I appreciate your, again, being on here. Your website is, I have it on the screen, or if you're listening, is www.centuryplantpublishing.com, CENTURY, plantpublishing.com. I have put that in the description of the platforms that will allow a description. And it will also be included in the podcast platform show notes for you to reach out to Colleen if you want to reach out to her and connect with her and work with her or get to know her better. So, oh my gosh, Colleen, it's been so great to chat with you today. Thank you so much for being willing to share your story, to be vulnerable, to share some of the things that you have gone through that maybe we're not necessarily comfortable to talk about, but in a way that will help others.
I hope so. I hope, because we all, at some point have to be a caretaker. So I hope, know that there is joy in the journey as well.
Yeah, it can be found. I think we just have to look for it. It can be found. So I love that message so much from you today. So, well, this has been so much fun, you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I am going to go ahead and plug my upcoming book. If you're interested in my memoir that's coming out in April, it's called A Journey from Incapacitation to Empowerment. There is on my website, which let me pull this up here. It's www.getamyshelp.com. There is a space where you can go put in your information to join the wait list to be on the pre-launch. I will have a freebie for everyone who orders on the pre-launch. And so if you want to know when the book is available for pre-launch, then enter your information there and I will be sending you that information. Lots of fun. I'm so excited about that. It's been a huge, huge thing for me. And I just am so thrilled to get it out there, to share the story and the message that I have that goes along with it, all the lessons that I've learned and some things, some extra nuggets in there that will help you as well. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you feel like this deserves a 5-star rating, I would love for you to give us a rating so that we can help reach others, because the more that we have ratings, the more it's shared, the more people we can reach with our stories of hope. And so thank you again for that. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Thanks, Colleen.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.